One of the tools of modern warfare is the submarine. The first submarine was built in 1620. However, the first submarine was used on the battlefield in 1776. At that time, the Americans used a submarine in their War of Independence against the British to set time bombs on British ships. Later, in the First and Second World Wars, the German submarine known as the U-boat established a reign of terror on the trade routes of British ships. After the Second World War, a long-lasting war of nerves began between the two superpowers of the world, America and the Soviet Union. At that time, the battle between these terrible monsters of the sea reached its peak. Although the Soviet Union initially lagged behind in submarine technology, they later built the huge Akula-class submarine and deprived America of sleep. This video will discuss how the groundbreaking Akula-class submarine was built and how submarines work in detail. During the Cold War between the Soviet Union and America, the whole world was in a state of panic. Because at that time, the competition between the two superpowers to create nuclear weapons was at its peak. Everyone was afraid that a nuclear war could break out between the two countries at any moment. In that Cold War, both countries were testing the power of modern submarines in their sea defense. There is nothing more capable than submarines to secretly wait in the enemy's sea borders and launch a sudden attack. At that time, American submarines were ahead in all aspects. On the other hand, the main problem of Soviet submarines was their high noise. Despite the fact that Soviet submarines were very fast and had a large stock of weapons, they could be caught by the opponent's sonar due to noise. But in 1984, the Soviet Union developed a completely new technology, the Akula-class submarine under their Project 971. The word Akula means shark in Russian. These new submarines could move so silently and quickly that even the Americans were shocked by their capabilities. After 1984, the Soviets built a total of 15 Akula submarines. These submarines were 110.3 m long, 13.6 m wide, and 9.7 m high. Under normal conditions, they operated at a depth of 480 m. However, they could go to a maximum depth of 600 m. The speed of the Akula submarine was 10 knots when surfaced, and 28 to 35 knots when submerged. This knot is a unit of measurement of speed at sea. Knot means nautical miles per hour. 1 nautical mile is equal to 1.15 miles or 1.852 kilometers. The best addition to the Akula-class submarine was its nuclear engine. It generated heat energy through the fission reaction of high-mass atoms. That heat energy was used to create steam from water and turn the submarine's turbine. The power of these powerful nuclear engines was 190 megawatts. Due to this, Akula could spend 100 days continuously underwater with a crew of 73. One of the main features of the Akula-class submarine is its extremely quiet sound. The sound that is created when the submarine moves is not allowed to escape. The more sound that escapes from the submarine, the greater the chance of detection by the enemy. In that case, the main purpose of the submarine, which is secrecy, is no longer maintained. There are many reasons why noise can be generated inside a submarine. The most common are the sound of the pump or engine and the propeller. The bubbles that form in the water when the propeller rotates are called cavitation. This cavitation is why Soviet submarines in the past were noisy. To solve this problem, the Soviets were able to reduce the noise of the submarine by purchasing various components from Japan. As a result, the Akula submarines became unstoppable. Russia also used a submarine built during the Cold War to spy on American waters in 2009. But the U.S. Defense Forces were unable to detect it. Later, in 2012, a Russian submarine secretly remained near U.S. waters for a whole month, conducting espionage missions. The large outer shell of the submarine is called the hull. The Akula submarine has 2 layers of hull. The pressure hull is quite small compared to the outer hull. This is where the submarine's crew is located. And inside the outer hull, the engine, weapons and other equipment are kept, so that its speed in the water is maximum. If the submarine is attacked, its outer hull is damaged. But the inner pressure hull is relatively protected. Along with this, 17 ballast tanks are kept to keep the submarine stable at different depths of the sea so that it does not sink completely. The ballast tank of the submarine contains air and water at the same time. If the submarine wants to go deeper into the water, the amount of water in the tank has to be increased. And if it wants to come up from the depths, the water in the tank has to be released. This means that how deep the submarine will be in the sea is controlled by the water in the ballast tank. Submarines have different types of sonar to detect the surrounding environment and the presence of enemies. The full form of sonar is sound navigation and ranging. This technology basically works in two ways, active and passive. In the active method, sonar generates a sound and receives the reflected sound to identify the location of the surrounding objects. On the other hand, passive sonar does not generate sound itself but only receives the sound coming from other objects. Submarines usually use the passive sonar method to detect the enemy. The main purpose of a submarine is to attack enemy ships. Therefore, submarines carry many types of missiles. Among the weapons on board the Akula submarine are the Type 53 and 65 torpedoes. These torpedoes attack enemy ships and submarines. Then there are the RPK-2, RPK-6, and RPK-7. These are basically anti-submarine missiles. It also has naval mines. These mines are used to destroy ships or submarines in important waters, and finally, there is the Igla-M missile, which is capable of hitting aircraft or helicopters flying on land or at sea. The Cold War lasted from 1947 to 1989. During this period, although tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union reached their peak, they did not directly engage in any conflict. This means that the war for which the Akula-class submarine was built did not actually take place. Therefore, this submarine did not need to be used directly on any battlefield. However, the Akula class remains a milestone in submarine technology to this day.